Hey, thank you all so much for joining another episode of Celeste the Therapist podcast. My name is Celeste. I am a therapist from Boston, Massachusetts. And we are talking to people who are doing things to empower other people. So I'm so excited to have my guest on. I'm going to have him introduce himself to you all. Can you introduce yourself to my audience, please?
Sure. My name is Rabbi Alfredo Borodowski, but I am better known as the Bipolar Rabbi. And Bipolar Rabbi is something I have chosen with much pride. And I wanted basically to be on your face and tell you that I can be a rabbi and I can be bipolar,
Mm-hmm.
together as one, and be proud and with dignity.
Okay. Okay. And we're going to get into your story because I'm sure people are wanting to know what that even means. But before, you are a rabbi, but before we get into how you even got to that point, I would love to hear about where you were raised and what did your upbringing look like?
I was raised in Buenos Aires, Argentina, and actually, specifically to do the podcast with you, Celeste, is that I came all the way here to Argentina, and I am seated here in Argentina on a summery day after having the great ice cream. Then I was born in Argentina. I went to Israel for a couple of years to finish my rabbinical degree. I met my wife in Israel. She was American. And I wanted to come to the States actually to study a doctorate in Jewish philosophy. And I did that. I came, finished my doctorate. And for many years, I taught at the university. And I also had congregations. But then I was in the world of academics and of the trenches of the topic.
What when you weren't raised in America, going from Argentina to Israel to America, what was that transition like for you?
Celeste, I came to the States with without a word of English. I remember I wanted to eat something, and a person said to me, Subway. I took my dictionary and I went looking for the Subway. Okay? And I walked block after block after block because here in Argentina, down in the subway, you have restaurants.
Uh-huh.
But then I was looking, and then one day at the very beginning of the blog, I see written Subway. Okay, that was my level of English. By the way, there is Subway here in Argentina, but I found Subway in Buenos Aires. Then I came with no language, and like any immigrant, you struggle. You learn because you need to learn. Growing up, I was the worst student of English in the school. Okay, they even exempted me of English. I spent the hour of English at the principal's office, sitting there.
Oh,
Okay,
because you were learning English while you were in Argentina.
yes, but on
Oh.
lower school, and I was so bad that they exempted me. And I sat at the principal's office, and years later, I met my English teacher.
Wow.
I put her to shame. I put her
Wow.
to shame. It was a show off. Like let's talk, let's see now.
For real.
Uh,
Now I made it. Now I can speak and we can have a conversation.
yes,
So you came here not understanding English, but you ended up at a university teaching. What was
yeah.
that transition like? Did that feel good to come that far along in your career and just your language and everything else?
I am amazed of my life every day, with all the good and the bad, which is plenty, as I'm sure you're going to ask me. Then I have this kind of inner reflection, where I do not take things for granted. I constantly aware of the miracle of every day I have. And you know, I my life changed on June 19th, 2013. That was a fatal date on my life. I was surrounded by police cars. I was handcuffed, thrown into a police vehicle, taken to the precinct, and later on that day, I was in front of a judge, accused of impersonating a police officer. And the reality is that I did impersonate a police officer. A congregant of mine, a retired policeman, gave me one of those courtesy shields. I was manic, and I was medicated with an antidepressant. And that created an explosion of 2 months of me going through the highway and telling people how to drive. Then they hospitalized me immediately, and there they diagnosed me bipolar. But during that time in the ward, psychiatric ward, my job fired me. They didn't have even the courtesy of seeing what was happening, giving me the benefit of the doubt. No, they fired me. I went out of the hospital fired, and I had to deal with a new reality. I was bipolar, and the newspapers baptized me. They baptized a rabbi as the road rage rabbi, the road rage rabbi. And newspapers, even in Ireland and Japan, had me on the front page as the road rage rabbi. It became a viral sensation about this rabbi who impersonates policemen. I can tell you, there was a lot of mockery, like this rabbi is making a non-kosher arrest. Then they made a mockery out of me. And basically, I lost touch with reality. I wasn't allowed to drive during the trial. I used to teach Celeste everywhere. I was a sought lecturer. Sadly, nobody else called me back to teach. I was like on a black book. Then my life had collapsed. I was ostracized. My friends left me. I was on Google, and every my life was basically demolished.
I want to pause you for a second because there's so much that you said that I just kind of want to unpack a little bit. Because one of the things I do with this, Rabbi Alfredo, is that I try to use this podcast as a teaching tool for people as well. And I've heard these stories before of people being misdiagnosed, and what did the antidepressants do to you where it wasn't depression, it was bipolar? What was that mix for you like? Because I think a lot of people tend to go through this piece right here.
Well, one of the things I did, I lied. I lied to my psychiatrist.
Okay.
Okay, and I was manic, but I was telling him I was
Depressed.
depressed. But that was part
Mm,
of that was part of the manic itself.
mm,
Then it's like a cycle, because you want to be manic in many ways. Because I was sleeping 4 hours a night, I was working like crazy, I was writing 2 books at the same time. I was on a high. Okay, I was like having the time of my life, and nobody would stop me. Okay, nobody would stop me. And the psychiatrist, I deceived the psychiatrist
Got it.
to give you an antidepressive. And can you imagine? I mean, this went haywire. I mean, I was never dangerous and I was never violent. I never touched anybody. Okay, it was just that I had a sense of grandiosity.
Yeah. And for people that may not have who don't understand manic or being manic or by dealing with bipolar, in that manic state, people can be very creative. Which is where he when he talks about, because on the outside looking in, somebody that may have somebody in their life that's experiencing an episode of mania, and they don't understand why can't like why do they keep going down that road, because like Rabbi Alfredo said, if it actually feels good and you were doing so much, so you weren't really clear on what was happening. You were just going through, right?
Yeah, money don't want to give the money mania away. We don't
Mm-hmm.
want to give our mania away because yes, it's very creative.
Mm-hmm.
You are like a machine. You're not
Mm-hmm.
sleeping. You're not eating. You're very creative, but you're going to crash or you're going to go into excess. It's not sustainable. People who know that somebody is bipolar should help the person, should watch the person. Not that the person is going to listen, by the way, because it's part of the mania. Is like I'm not going to listen to anybody because I know more than anybody else. I know better. But sometimes you can do it by having the conversation before you're manic and setting some kind of guards and triggers that can be used at the difficult moments.
I like that. The next part I wanted to unpack is um, getting fired. One of the things that I don't understand is how much we stigmatize mental health, but given the fact of what happened to you, and I've heard stories like this before, where I've seen people and police officers or psychiatrists who pay out of pocket because they're concerned about their job, which is unfortunate, because if you were in a coma, your job would have been waiting for you. Tell people about what that was like to have this diagnosis that you could not have prevented. And then all of the years, I just got finished raving about, wow, you did all of this work and you came here, and then to lose everything that quickly. What did that feel like for you?
In the place I was working, the problem or the fear was the press. They didn't want to deal with the PR. Then they had to make a decision. They were going to do the right thing and understand their employee, and I was a very high level employee. But this should be for anybody at any level. That their employee is going through a period, terrible period, has a mental disorder, and you stick by the person and you give the person some breathing space to put the life together, okay, and then yes, a crime was committed, but the crime is framed within an illness. Now now, you know I was in the hospital and I came out of the hospital, okay, and I received a letter that they fired me. And what happened to me, Celeste? The day after, I was back in the hospital in a worse situation than the first hospitalization, because when that basically was so severe on me that I became suicidal.
Yeah, that was, you worked so hard to get to that point.
Yeah, and they did this to me, and I told them that it was in a psychiatric ward. They knew it. Okay, then I went. They had to take me. A friend of mine had to take me in an emergency basis to the hospital because I was a liability to myself.
Now, I want to talk about the newspapers and the quote unquote road rage rabbi, and people ask me all the time, why do you think mental health is so stigmatized? I said because of the way media highlights things. What was that like for you to be a viral sensation, not because of all of the work that you've done over the years, but for the moment of your struggle with mental health? Like, what was that like for you?
Celeste, you are impotent. You can't do anything. They're playing with your name, they're playing with your persona, they're playing with your future, and you witness it. And you have no power, no saying, no tools to do anything. And people may say, well, ignore them. Okay, it is very difficult. Okay, because we are a society based on information, and everything goes to Google and stays there forever, basically. Then I knew that I had become a symbol. It was not anymore about me. It was about what I symbolized. I symbolized a Jewish powerful rabbi from Westchester, okay, who finally we got you. We got you finally, okay, and that was the tenor of the tenor of the articles. That were a mockery. They were, when I went out with my lawyer to announce that I was bipolar, because I had to do it, okay, because everything, the things that were written, they were so nefarious, so terrible, that I had to, it wasn't my call to be telling everybody I was bipolar, but I had to do it. You know what the press did? The press wrote about it like a footnote
Dang,
to the article, or that I was using it as an excuse for my crimes.
dang.
Okay, he's now found an alibi. He found an excuse. He's not taking responsibility.
Well, they wanted that story to be like it. They didn't want there to be anything to put holes in that story.
How did they work this story? Unbelievable. I mean, like for months. I had to tip my hat to the writers in terms of how you can write narrative that is endless, okay, and repeat the same thing. But look, at the end of the day, I use the road rage rabbi as opposed to the bipolar rabbi.
Mm,
Then that's what I did. That's why I call myself, one of the reasons I call myself bipolar rabbi is because I am the bipolar rabbi. I am not the road road rage rabbi.
Rose Rabbi, yeah. What was it like? Another thing I want to ask you before I move on is to be alienated from people in your life, for people to leave you. And we're talking, I think in 2022, people are more mindful about mental health. In 2013, absolutely not. What was that like for you to build this life here and then find yourself not having people in your corner?
Yes, you're very sensitive in what you're saying, and I really appreciate it, because nobody likes to lose what they got, but I had this sense of alienation attached to it, because I have worked so hard to make myself a place in this country. And my parents in Argentina, they don't read English. They couldn't understand even what's going on. At that point, I was going to Argentina to do the wedding of my cousin, and I had to cancel it. I had this feeling of, I don't know where I belong. I am uprooted. And for 8 months, I was basically on a sofa.
Wow.
I lived on a sofa for 8 months. And then one day I said, no more.
What was that day like for you? What do you can you lead us up to that day where you said no more? Because I know there's somebody listening that may resonate with your story. There's so many elements of it that
Well, it
people go
comes,
through.
it comes through something that I am working now with people, which is what we call positive psychology. The psychology that explores no trauma, but the strength of people. And all of us have strengths, but we don't know it. In fact, two-thirds of people are unaware of the strengths. And then I took the instrument on positive psychology one day, and I got the results. And the top strengths I have were curiosity, love of learning, perseverance, bravery, and one more which I don't remember. But I look at them and I said, love of learning, curiosity. Alfredo, you are a great student. You had to do something that you excel at and you feel comfortable. And you know what it is, Celeste? I enrolled myself in social work school.
Oh wow.
At the age of,
Okay.
at the age of 50, at the age of 50, having I had a law degree, I had a Ph.D. in philosophy. I went back to school with all the young people there. Uh, and look, those were amazing 2 years.
Mhm.
I tell you, it took every ounce of strength from me. I wasn't completely functional. I used to write papers, like write 3 pages and had to leave them aside
Mm.
and wait for another 2 weeks. And I was timing myself. I call it surfing through school. I would wait for the wave of energy.
Mm.
Okay, that's the metaphor I use for myself, surfing through school. I received the award, the most prestigious award at school, which is the most inspirational student.
Wow.
And
Where
yeah,
did you give yourself grace during this time? Knowing that you're going back because you already have a PhD at this point. It took a lot of strength, and with a bunch of young kids, um, did you give yourself a lot of grace? Do you remember that time?
look, I am not so much that kind of person, and I should be more.
Okay.
What I can tell you is that I received all kind of awards. I have a book written about philosophy. I have accomplished some things, but nothing was more important for me than that inspirational award, more than the PhD, because this was about being a person, not about having a degree or having knowledge. People saw in me that I was an inspiring leader. And that brought that I tell you, and the day they gave it to me, they had an award ceremony. I told my story to the entire room with my professors, and that was my time of redemption. Some stories have a redemption time, redemptive moment. That was a time of redemption for me. And I don't hang my diplomas. I have it in basement. But that little plaque of inspirational leader, that I have it, that you can see it on my library, because that's that was the turning point. That was the turning point ahead.
That's really great. And I appreciate your transparency and sharing this because I know people things happen and people can get you could have easily got stuck on the couch. And I always tell people we have power within us. And unfortunately we get stuck in what has happened, right? Because all of us come with some form of trauma, and we forget the other side. We're not ignoring the fact that this thing happened, but we can't also ignore our strengths. Once you hold on to your strengths and identify them, I feel like it can help propel you to the level that you're supposed to be on.
Yeah, it's a dance. It's a dance between
Yeah,
the right moment coming, which you cannot hasten, and being prepared, and doing sometimes things which you don't know how they're going to end. Like me taking this
I know.
positive psychology instrument,
I know.
which, by the way, I'm working now. I give workshops for people with mental illness, mental disorder. They take, I give them the instrument, and they get their strengths. And I do workshops where
Wow.
the entire the entire outlook of the person towards the world and towards himself or herself, it shift, because the language now is not about trauma, but language
Mm-hmm.
is about strength.
Yes. Yes. That's good. I I want to know, you got this degree and then you decided that you were going to like not just share your story but work with other people. Do you feel like you were always called to work with people and form of capacity of helping them on their healing journey? Did you find yourself?
Well, as a rabbi, I've been a pulpit rabbi of my all my life, and it is about healing people and about community.
Mhm.
Then in some ways, my going into social work or becoming a social worker was an extension
Mhm.
of my rabbinate, but I wanted something which was a little bit more expansive, that wasn't related just to one tradition,
Mhm.
that could serve people in general. Then there is a continuum. I think. Um, I I decided to become a social worker also, not because it met also my strength, because when I went through my ordeal, social workers were the most helpful people to me.
Mm.
I mean,
Okay.
the social workers really, held my hand. I mean, there are some social workers I own them my life. I mean, literally, they were there for me at the most decisive moments. Even when one of them said, I went to her office and it was in a good shape, and she said, "You're not leaving. I going out to, you stay in the hospital." And I said, "No way, I leaving now. No, you're staying." Okay. Clearly, it was an act of love from her, when she saw me, and I needed to stay in the hospital. Okay, I am very grateful to her that she stood firm and said, "You're in terrible shape. You're staying here."
Mhm. Before you started sharing your story about the incident that happened in June 2013, you said, I look at my life and I just am filled with so much gratitude. We don't have the same story, but I do have a story. And I tell people a lot of times as I'm driving or I'm walking, I think about like where I'm at now and how far I've come, and I'm filled with a lot of gratitude. In your bio, right? You talk about the fact that you believe connecting the spiritual wisdom to your mental well-being. Can you tell people what does that mean? Because that's something that's so important to me in my life, and I would love to hear from you so
Then
people
I
can understand.
then I tell you a couple of things. First of all, is there a mind? Do we have a mind? Do we have a soul? Okay. My psychiatrist says no. By the way, okay, Alfredo, I am a monist. There is only a brain. There is not a mind. Okay, and this is what I would say. When you have a generator, okay, during a storm, there is a blackout, and you turn on a generator. The generator is made out of 1,000 pieces, screws, hoses, and etc. All those pieces move, and they create an energy. The energy is different from the generator. The energy is not the generator. Okay, the energy is a product of the life of the generator and the dynamism of the generator. Then I say the following: yes, everything in a human being, in a person, is finite. But the combination of the person walking and talking and eating and dreaming, it must generate something which is different from the physical aspect of the person. Then I do believe that there is something in us that is not us, is generated by us, that is very, very powerful, healing, and and I would venture to call it mind.
Hmm.
The other thing I want to say, Celeste, is this is what I am doing now, which is connected to spirituality. What do I mean by spirituality? I believe that people with mental illness have secret knowledge that they have not shared with the world. Let me ask you, who knows more about resilience, about courage, about hope, about darkness, about light than people with mental disorder? We are the world experts. We are the life coaches. But the world and ourselves had told us that because we have some kind of disorder, that we don't have a knowledge that is first grade that came from the disorder itself. In other words, functionality and the way we function does not mean or determine the quality of what we have experienced. Then I say the following, corporations, they have all kind of people to talk about motivation, yes? Motivational speakers. I would like to have schizophrenic and OCD and bipolar to talk at all the event of the corporations. We know better, but we have not convinced ourselves that we have something to say. We are conditioned by the language and the narrative that the world has imposed upon us. And I believe that every person who has a mental disorder is a walking wisdom person.
Yes.
And what I am doing now, and I'm committed to this, I'm going to be publishing a book, which is very different from any other book I think you know on mental health. It's a book in which I have 14 chapters: acceptance, courage, shame, negative thoughts, etc. And
Hmm.
on every page of the book, there is a link where the reader clicks the link, go to a site, and gives his or her own wisdom.
Oh, wow.
Okay? And the purpose of the book is to create the collective wisdom of mental illness.
Hmm.
When we do that and we cut the collective wisdom of mental illness, we are going to slap on the face stigma.
Hmm.
Stigma is not going to it's not going to end by asking the other people to end it. Stigma
Hmm.
is going to end when we affirm our value in
Hmm.
society.
Yes. Yes.
Then I am very excited about this book. I tell you, there are like the book has 230 pages,
Hmm.
and there are over 50 links in the book for anybody to go into the central page and tell a story, their own quote, the spiritual teachings, and I want to create out of it a book which is the collective wisdom, where we are going to show the world what our wisdom is.
Hmm. Hmm.
And this is all free. I don't do this for money. This is going to be an online book,
Wow.
accessible to anybody. Um, we it's time. It's time that we extract wisdom out of our experience. Let me tell you something that happened to me.
Wait, before you tell me what happened to you, I just want to just kind of
Yes.
piggyback really quick. Remember that thought, okay, Rabbi? Remember that
Yes.
thought.
Yes.
Okay. So I just want to say what he said. I've worked in this field for over 20 years. I'm 39 since I was 19. And one of the things and the people I started with were people that were diagnosed with bipolar, schizophrenia, and I would tell people that these are the smartest people I know. And people that are diagnosed with these major mental health diagnoses actually, I believe, use more brain than the average person. And I think that you use more parts of their brain, and they're very smart, very creative. but our country, I don't know if there's other parts of the world where they may be more accepted, does not accept anything other than a certain way of living. And so when people are lumped into a category, unfortunately, I think all of the energies of the psych hospitals and what the psychiatrists are saying, they end up just kind of believing that, and aren't able to live out their life in a creative way. So I value what you're saying, because you are talking from lived experience. And me, as somebody that's worked with people, I wholeheartedly believe the philosophy and what you're speaking today. So
Nobody, that's what you're saying is true. Nobody has collected the wisdom. Very simple.
yeah.
Nobody has told the people with mental disorder that they have a wisdom.
Right, right,
Okay,
right.
let's begin with that. And I
Yeah.
was I was telling you before is that I was at the hospital. It was an outpatient, a hospital you went in the morning, it went for 2 or 3 hours a day. And then a year later, I look at the classes they taught us, the seminars they taught us. And this is what I found. One was on your anger style. Okay, what is your anger style? The second one was about how do you deal with conflict? The third one was about how do you fight? And I was saying, wait a minute, who are you? Who are you to take for granted that they have anger, conflict, and fighting? What message are you sending to me? What message are you sending to all the people here in this room? What about asking the question of what are the most valuable wisdom you have acquired from the experience of being hospitalized? What would you what would you tell people about freedom? What would you tell people about helping each other? What would you tell people about stamina? Okay, imagine the stories that are waiting to be known. Okay, imagine the moments of transcendence that are waiting to be shared. We, with mental disorder, are told that we are defective. And because we are defective, we don't have something to tell, while we are maybe the most capable of telling the world about what life is. That's why I wrote this book. And I am committed to this work, specifically to collecting the wisdom of mental illness. I am convinced that it's going to be, you know, something that people are going to go and run to libraries to to read, because it's going to be amazing, because the people are amazing, and nobody has told them that they're amazing.
I cannot wait for that book to be out. I've always had good relationships with anybody I've worked with, and that's because I treat them as people. And people would say, like, how do you work with adults, and how do you work with this population? That, and I said, because everybody was once a child, and life has happened, and everybody doesn't look the same, everybody doesn't have the same walk, everybody's experiences. I remember working at a shelter, and this was like the turning point for me, for understanding that what I want out of life is not the same as what the other person wants out of life. And my wants out of life were dictated around what society said they should look like. I didn't consciously know that back then, but now I understand. And I would get really excited when people moved out of the shelter for them. And because I had good rapport with people, one of the clients told me, like, it's hard going from community in the shelter to having your own place and not having anyone. Never thought about it. All I'm thinking is, like, this person has their own place. And so that was like the turning point for me, where I really listen and I don't assume. And I recognize that everybody, what they want out of life is going to look different. So what you're sharing today is so powerful, for so many different reasons, whether it's somebody with lived experience or somebody who knows somebody with lived experience and trying to channel them into one direction, when there's not just one direction to life, right? The generator, different parts, if we look at the generator as the world, there's different parts of people in the world, and we
Right.
have to allow them to be, and not put them in a box, because that's when they struggle more, is when they're boxed in.
Imagine this person you mentioned now, if this person were to write a few lines about transition. Okay, just okay, one of the most powerful and complicated things, which is to transition to one state to another. You know, I wrote another book, which is a memoir, which is, my life and, part of the story and more that I told you. It's now moving ahead with editorials and, editing, and, writing a book is a nightmare. Publishing a book is worse than writing a book. But I wrote the first 100 pages of that book in the Word. You know, I was manic, then I needed something to do, and I was inspired by all the people that I saw around. Then, on that book, it's a different book, I had 20 stories from the world. Okay, really short stories from the world, which are funny and which are like, very funny. Some of them, like the day that they moved me to the room next to the piano, and one of the fellow customers there announced, I am a piano teacher, and then he had 10 students practicing piano. Okay, and one was playing no, "Don't Cry for Me, Argentina," and each time he played it, because I was from Argentina, he
Yeah,
would come to
yeah.
me. He would come to me, ask me, "Did I do it well? Did I do it well?" Uh, I couldn't sleep my naps because they were playing the pianos, and I must say with a little bit of shame, all that is in the book, I disabled the piano.
Oh.
I took 10 magazines, I rolled them, and at 2 in the morning, I opened the piano and I put the magazines there between the hammer and the strings. And they went to play the next day and was a complete disaster in the world that the piano is not working. I had 3 days of peace until somebody finally looked what's inside, and they saw 10 gardening magazines there lining up. Okay, and I tell you, the director of the ward called the entire floor to a meeting and to discuss the piano situation. And then they had times now, they have schedules. But as I write on the story, the Don't Cry for Me Argentina guy didn't play again.
Oh.
And I miss him.
Hmm.
Okay. Then these are stories which are full of humor, but also with some teaching. But it has to do with the strength of people and the wisdom of people, which are
Yeah.
not is not being developed and is not being released.
Hmm.
Let me maybe, for those who are listening, they can get the book if I tell them how. Then they had to go to my site, by the way. It's Bipolar Rabbi. There are
Hmm.
two R's. There are two R's here. Bipolar and Rabbi with two B's. BBI.com. So you go to bipolarrabbi.com and you just register your name. As soon as the book is done, you get a free copy. You use it, you don't use it, you misuse it. But I would love to have you as a partner. You can contribute to the collective wisdom, and let's be the wisest people,
Yes, I
because
love it.
we are, we
Yeah.
are.
I appreciate that. Thank you. And I'm gonna have a link to his website in the show notes. But I wanna, in case somebody's wondering, like, why do you call yourself bipolar rabbi? What would you tell them?
Because this is who I am. It's as simple as that. I am a rabbi, and that's my main purpose in this world, to serve people as a
Hmm.
rabbi, as a religious leader, as a spiritual leader. And I am bipolar in terms of I am going to share my mental illness with the world as a rabbi.
Hmm.
Then what I done is I had changed my rabbinate, Celeste. I had a rabbinate that was about being a successful rabbi in congregations,
Hmm.
or being in the academics.
Hmm.
I am a different kind of rabbi. I'm a rabbi now who goes to the world, a rabbi with the mission of bringing the wisdom of mental illness to the world. That's my mission. And I want to tell people I am one of yours, okay?
Yeah.
I am not an outsider, okay? I am, you should feel proud of who you are. Not that everybody should go on and publicize the condition, because
Right.
there are a lot of issues involved with that.
Right. Right. Right.
But I want I am part of the group.
Yeah.
That's what I wanted to say.
Okay, no, I appreciate that. And I agree, right? Like I talk throughout the podcast, I'd share different parts of my story, and I don't think it's necessary for people to share their story with the world. That's not where everyone's called to do. But what I love about your story is that you took your power back. It's like you were in a system where you were being stripped, honestly, and you were able to take your power back, and now you're using your story to like help other people on their healing process. I'm sure there's so many people that you've touched over the years that you may not even know about, because you took your power back.
I was here. I taught in Argentina here. I taught here in Argentina. I taught a seminar on personality type. I
Hmm.
am a Myers Briggs personality type
Hmm.
administrator, which is the number one personality instrument,
Hmm.
and connected to strengths and positive psychology. And at the end, I told my story to the group, and not to make myself sound important or anything else, but wasn't a dry eye, a dry eye. And the day after, you had to see the emails. You
I
touched
can
my
only
soul.
imagine.
This is happened to me. This happened to my son. I
Yep.
have a relative. I have, there is so much need. This is something that is touching every family.
Yep.
It's overwhelming. It's not only here, clearly. It crosses boundaries. It happens to me also in the States. In the States, people are a little bit, by the way, more kind of reserved. It's very interesting. When,
Hmm.
when I speak here in Latin America, they begin crying 2 minutes after, by the way. In the States, they're a little bit more like guarded, okay?
Yes.
But I get the same kind of emails, okay, the, the day after. I believe that part of the solution to this is to empower people.
Yeah. 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 I
You,
agree.
you empower people by giving them a voice. Now,
Yes.
the other thing, Celeste, that you mentioned is that you fought back. The key word, we all know the key word of fighting back, which is resilience. Resilience.
I like that.
And it may be the most important quality,
Yes.
because
Yep.
because things will happen.
Hmm.
Things will happen.
Hmm.
Resilience is the key element, and the book has a chapter on resilience, and I would like to get stories or resilience. And there's another section of what people think resilience is.
Mm-hmm.
There are quotes on resilience, and then they're invited to write their own quote on resilience, original own
Nice.
quote. Then and then there is at the end of each chapter a section on, okay, get it all out, whatever you want to say about resilience. But in me, resilience, part of it has to do with fear.
Mm.
Okay, I have fear of falling apart.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and I'm cognizant of that. The
Mm-hmm.
other thing has to do with my faith.
Mm-hmm.
I do believe that there is a purpose to people. There are traditions that sustain you. There are
Mm-hmm.
communities that love you.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, you know, and look, there is a timing to resilience. I don't think that I could have gotten out of the couch sooner than when I got out of the couch to go to social work school. I think that
Mm-hmm.
that was a transition that I had to be there for a while. Uh, that was the place I had to be for a while
Mm-hmm.
and to get out of it. Get out of it.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. You're amazing. I can't I cannot let this interview end without letting the people know, how does Rabbi Alfredo take care of himself today? What does your wellness look like for you?
Well, first of all, a lot of boxing, Celeste.
Oh, nice. Me too. I
Yeah,
love boxing.
and I am on a UFC gym,
Oh, you're
Okay,
doing the real stuff.
okay,
Okay.
there is punch in the bag.
Uh-huh.
Um, I take my medicine. Please take your medicine. Have a ritual for it. You
Mm-hmm.
take it the same at the same time with the same glass with the same liquid. Okay, it's almost automatic. You don't have to think. You must have a ritual for your medicine. I go to synagogue. That's my spiritual home. Then
Mm-hmm.
then I pray.
Mm-hmm.
I go to pray. It's essential for me to read. Reading for me is meditation. Okay, I read and it's an exercise for meditation. Then I don't know if I can make a commercial here, but I got for Hanukkah I got a Kindle, okay, and that changed my life. I mean, now I have 400 books in a little thing.
Oh, wow.
Like the Kindle is like a library in the palm of your
It
hand.
is.
Then I read a lot. Then I go to my psychologist every week
Mm-hmm.
and my psychiatrist once a month.
Mm-hmm.
And then you exercise, you eat well, and you take your medication, and you find something which is meditative, and you go to therapy. Uh, you should be doing okay. Certainly, there are cases that are more radical and more difficult, but you have a manageable situation doing that kind of stuff. Should do it. Also, this project that I am doing about the mental health wisdom. Clearly, I mean, I wake up every morning and I had to post on social media, which I am a complete disaster. And, you can't believe I mean, it's like everything was done against me. Then I had to write the blog, but then I had to post the blog, and I had to put the pictures on the blog, and the pictures are never the right size. Anyway, you must laugh. You got to laugh. I have fun with it.
I love it.
Then when you get one right,
It's a big
it's
deal.
big. But then, no, but then every every 2 minutes I see somebody's look at somebody, look at this, somebody, look at it. I still knew at the, I know I actually I not new. I've been doing it for 6 months. I remain new. Doesn't matter how much I do it. It's like I'm not making much progress. But that's something else I do. This project,
Wait.
social media, is amazing.
Well, I appreciate your transparency. Believe me, a lot of people are in your same boat. What I love is your resilience and your and Rabbi Alfredo. I'm sure a lot of the things he talked about doing, there are days that he doesn't feel like doing it, and he presses forward, and then he has his passion, his purpose project that he's working on, that actually helps drive him as well. So I am beyond grateful to you for coming on and sharing. Can you like let people know how they can reach you? We know that there's the link that we can subscribe so we can learn about the book.
Yes, it's bipolar
Mm-hmm.
rabbi
Mm-hmm.
com. Remember, there are two R's,
Mm-hmm.
bipolar rabbi, one
Mm-hmm.
R after the other. Rabbi is with two B's,
Mm-hmm.
bb.com. Very simple, bipolarrabbi.com. You go into the site, you're going to learn a little bit about me
Mm-hmm.
and about the things I do. Then you just register your name. After that, by the way, you're going to get an email acknowledging that I got your email, and my email to you is going to have like my blogs, my a couple of things I done that I don't feel proud about, but no, I feel proud about. But and then by being on that list, you're going to get everything I do, like the book and the workshops. I don't send things all the time, and all the times I don't like when I get them all the time. Then don't think that you're going to sign into something where Rabbi Alfredo is going to now. That's it. I am
Mm-hmm.
done. No, it's going to be maybe once a month.
Okay.
You get something, and you're going to get the book when it comes out soon.
And for the workshop, the information for the workshop is on the website as well.
Yes, and it's going to be a workshop. The workshop they're going to get it is signed on the website. I give you the email,
Okay.
okay? And the workshop is going to be also Zoom based.
Mm-hmm.
And again, this mission is I think it's going to be charged, but it's going to be really, really
Mm-hmm.
very symbolic. The only reason I'm doing a very symbolic charge because I want to make sure that people come.
Yeah.
But it's going to be something that kind of going to the movies for the entire workshop. It's going to be more than one meeting.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. This is good. Was I too hard on you, Rabbi? You're the first rabbi I've had on the podcast, so I'm excited. Was I hard on you? How do you feel after this interview?
Actually, there is something. I'm going to say this. You are the best host I have had you
You're
were
using your positive psychology on me, Rabbi Alfredo?
no, no, you were empathic. You were empathic. You
Thank
listen.
you.
You move me. You direct me. Uh, you made it good. You made it good for me.
Okay,
Actually,
good.
you got
You made it good for my audience and me as well.
thank you.
Yeah, we're I'm grateful. I'm so grateful. You have your warm spirit just like speaks through your story, and I'm so glad you're here to share your story to so many people that may feel isolated and alone. So thank you for this.
Thank you.
All right, we will talk to you later.